Hi, it's Dr. Steve Hassan. It is September 17th, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Thank you for joining my live stream. We're streaming to multiple platforms today, expanding the Freedom of Mind community. And I wanted to start by just saying we have so many important things to talk about. I'll be answering your questions. But let me start by just saying I just finished recording an interview with Michael Cohen from Mea Culpa podcast. I'm told it will come out on Friday. On Monday, I did a live Substack with Lev Parnas talking about the aftermath of the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Well, I'm sure we're going to get into that today. I want to say that this week's podcast guest is a friend of mine, a former third generation William Branham cult member, John Collins. We were talking about Vance Belter, the assassin who killed a Democratic lawmaker and her husband in Minnesota last year. Of course, we had scheduled this weeks ago, so we had no idea it was going to be timed with the assassination of Charlie Kirk. And next week, we have an expert on gay issues and trans issues, Matthew Skinta, coming up. And for those people on my YouTube that subscribe, get to see that in advance of it being released. It should be up now. We have a lot of interesting guests coming up, and we're building our Substack. And come and join and subscribe, please. So let me start by just saying before I came on just now, I was reading an AP article, Associated Press article, about how Russia, China, and Iran have been flooding the digital spaces with disinformation, fermenting civil war, talking about what a mess America is, which serves their purpose of keeping their own victims of mind control cults in prison. Because think about it, if you're in a dictatorship and you always look to America for free speech and freedom, and you hear about things like the assassination, it makes you think twice of whether or not America is actually the land of the free and where you have free speech. And literally, Donald Trump went public as soon as he heard of the shooting, blaming not a disturbed shooter, which is the case. And I want to state categorically, I'm against political assassination. I'm against violence. I'm a peacenik. I'm a love person. I'm a therapist. So my message is the opposite of a violent terrorist message. But Trump was labeling everyone who criticizes him as violent and a terrorist, which we are not. And I did do a video. It was uncharacteristic of me to opine quickly after something like the assassination. But I did put out a video. It went viral. And I was just reacting to Donald Trump, immediately blaming all of the left for the killing. And I just said, my recollection is Charlie Kirk was really putting a lot of pressure on releasing the Epstein Files. And now that Congress is back in session, there's a bill to discharge the entire files. Now Kash Patel, FBI, is saying there's no files, on top of Donald Trump saying it's a Democratic hoax. Let's ignore all the Epstein survivors who came to DC. Let's ignore all of the birthday book that was published by the Wall Street Journal that's being sued by Donald Trump for associating him with Epstein. So anyway, I did this video just saying, when I think about assassination, we're always thinking motive, and let's not assume it's a left-wing person, let's look, is there a possibility that maybe someone from the MAGA side did it? And now there's information coming out that's still very confusing, even though the FBI is stating things and the Mormon governor of Utah is stating things. I'm just going to wait and see some more. But I can tell you that nobody's talking about gun culture. This young man was raised shooting guns, many pictures of him with guns and even a machine gun on the family Facebook page. Devout Mormons. I've written about and interviewed former Mormons. There's a whole bite model of authoritarian control discussing Mormonism. The father reportedly didn't just call the police, he called his bishop first, like a good Mormon was told to do. Always protect the church first before obeying civil law. So there's a whole piece around that. And then if this young man was recruited and radicalized online, how come we're not talking about social media and the fact that so many of these violent lone actor terrorists were radicalized online? So all of these things, I've done interviews and I've done blogs on my Substack. Come and check it out. Please think about becoming a subscriber. And we're going to be doing a lot more on Substack. Just stay tuned and sign up for our free once a week Tuesday email that comes out. So that's my intro for this day. There's so many other things we can talk about, but let's jump in to questions and comments. Let's see. Yuki on YouTube asks, I've got a couple of questions. One, could some of the mind control techniques be used to break people from these cults? And two, would it be ethical or no? Too many people I care about who are at risk from them, but also I've actually had people, if not sucked into them, actually starting to think that we're the bad guys. So I'm going to ask Jerry if you can put up my influence continuum graph. Slower exhales, because when you do a longer exhale, it activates what's called the parasympathetic nervous system and it calms you down. Well, I'm trying to explain mind control techniques can be used ethically if we're using it on ourselves. And the techniques that I'm sharing with you is ethical to share with anybody. because it's really about how to live as embodied minds in our bodies in the here and now, and not be controlled by external forces. Not be, Jerry, if you could mute your phone, that would be, or the mic, it would be really great, because I'm hearing it in my earphones. Thank you, brother. So the point is, I'm all for using mind control techniques on yourself, or explaining these are techniques to family and friends of how to regulate reality and how to live a fulfilled, joyful, off-filled, purposeful life. Great. Now, when it comes to bite model mind control techniques, controlling behavior, information, thoughts, emotions, where they're not in touch with their conscience, with their authentic self, they're not in their love, they're in hate or conditional love. I'll be loved if I do what the leader tells me to do or the group does. And so we can talk about how to regulate your own behavior, how we can regulate our own information. Like I tell people, why do you spend at 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 hours a day on your cell phones? Live your life. Life is not on your cell phone. Life is in real life with real human beings. And understand that you have been programmed and indoctrinated and conditioned to feel like you have to be on the phone. Fear of missing out, whether it's manipulation of our cortisol or our adrenaline. But the bottom line is, as human beings, we did not evolve to be digital. And I know that Mark Zuckerberg and the other billionaire techies, they want us to all think transhumanism is the future of the human species, that we'll all have android bodies. But I'm not subscribed to that ideology at all. I'm not subscribed to giving up on planet Earth, that we need to live and sustain ourselves in a healthy way. So I'm not for doing unethical mind control techniques on other people. And so the best thing we can do is educate yourself, and then learn how to talk effectively to people who've been radicalized or who are going down the slippery slope into an authoritarian group or belief system. And the bottom line is, when you are asking questions from a sincere, curious, respectful place, and if you're patient and wait for a response and are doing active listening, so you can even repeat back what you heard the person say, so they really feel like you're paying attention to them, and ask them a question, and then do a follow-up question and another follow-up question. And just get out of this mindset of trying to win an argument or trying to get somebody out of a cult. People will leave if you give them the tools to reality test. Therefore, when it comes to MAGA, what I found to be the most effective is talking about Chinese communist brainwashing and emphasize communism is the left. Anti-authoritarianism on the left or the right, right? So talk about what they would identify as unethical brainwashing and mind control. Explain the bite model. You can use Lifton's model if you don't want to cite my work and the fact that I wrote The Cult of Trump. I understand that may be a trigger for some people to hear my name associated. Or talk about pimps and traffickers. And trust me, Trump wants to change the narrative from Epstein Files and exposing the deep state, all the things he campaigned on for 10 years. He wants everyone to martyr Charlie Kirk and elevate Charlie Kirk as if he was a saint. Give him the Freedom Medal, please. This is 1984. Let's see. Deborah J. on Substack asks, do you think it's possible that Kirk was a sacrifice by the right in order to blame the left for it? Lots of theories here. But for me, the fact that Charlie Kirk had so many young people and he really, really was pressing releasing the Epstein files, and Donald Trump started talking about it being a hoax, a Democratic hoax. And Kash Patel is now saying there are no files after Pam Bondi said the files are on her desk. You know, it's really causing a rift in MAGA. It's really causing a lot of dissonance in members' minds. And so who would benefit from the assassination of Charlie Kirk? Well, you know, the people who want to protect themselves from being on the fact that they're on the list. Also, Charlie Kirk started criticizing Israel's policies and talking about ethnic cleansing. So some of the theories online are that it was Israel that assassinated him. We don't know yet. But what's clear is Trump is opportunistic. And as soon as it happened, Trump went national and blamed the left. And like I said, not a disturbed person, but blame the left for being violent. And now they're threatening to go after free speech itself, something that all conservatives and all people who were in the Republican Party felt was a vital value. Now Trump is saying we're going to come after you if you say anything critical of Charlie Kirk, anything critical. So let's see. Nancy Wallace, thank you for being a regular, Nancy. You say, I'm seeing a cultish lionizing of Charlie Kirk in defensive comments, candlelight vigils. Do you think this will pass quickly or become another troublesome cause celebra? They're apparently they're talking about creating a Remembrance Day and giving him the Medal of Freedom and lionizing him as a great example of an American. And he epitomizes all the worst in what is American, in my professional opinion. And all I can say is, when Vance went on Charlie Kirk's podcast, he was attempting to ingratiate himself with the Charlie Kirk audience. When I was just on Michael Cohen's podcast and brought up this point, he said that Charlie Kirk's Turning Point people can't stand Vance. Nobody likes Vance. No one's going to follow Vance. So I don't know. I opined that Musk, who didn't like that Trump was threatening to expel him for criticizing him and bringing up the Epstein files, he was the first major figure to say Trump was in the Epstein files, but also to cancel his contracts for the space stuff. I was thinking Peter Thiel, Musk, and Zuckerberg, and maybe Bezos got together and they're like, well, let's move Trump out by emphasizing the Epstein files and put Vance in because he'll do what we tell him to do. So let's see, another one. Kemi says, Tranquil Rain on Substack asks, what about his upbringing? Meaning the shooter's upbringing being from a devout Mormon family? I think that's what she's alluding to. Please come to my Substack, check out my bite model of authoritarian control applied to the Mormons. See my interview with John Dehlin, former sixth generation Mormon psychologist who was excommunicated because he started speaking out on behalf of gay Mormon youth. who were being put through conversion programs and were killing themselves, and they kicked him out of the group. And John and I did a one-day workshop, which we videotaped. There's an 8-hour course with former members. I think there were 250 former members of the Mormon organization there. Come and listen to the 8 hours and listen to the issues of why these people have exited Mormonism. Heavy apocalyptic, have a living prophet, survivalist, have hundreds of billions of dollars in investments, yet force their members to give 10% gross tithing. Very misogynistic, homophobic. Anyway, Shutter Happy Mom said, when the governor said praying it wasn't one of us, he meant Mormon first. Yeah, I would agree, because Cox the governor is a Mormon. I've heard that he even would like to run for president himself. If you may remember, Mitt Romney was the Republican nominee to run for president. He did not get in. And the Mormons turned on Mitt Romney when he voted to impeach Donald Trump. And they booed him and they shunned him, which was really, really interesting. A rare moment where I congratulated and applauded Mitt Romney for something that he did. I should also add, Mitt Romney was the governor of Massachusetts when we passed health care legislation that became a model for the enhanced Obamacare system that Trump is trying now to kick at people off of by the millions. Let's see, Nexus Super Chat, $2. Thank you. Says thank you for your work. Thank you. And let me just repeat, I'm interested in this topic from a very personal origin, because I was recruited into a front group of the Moonies when I was 19. I got radicalized. I became an extremist, and then I got deprogrammed after I nearly died in a van crash. So my heart goes out to people who have bought into trusting untrustworthy people, following malignant narcissists. And I really do have hope that people are going to wake up and realize they've been played and get upset, and then work together to make sure this regime does not continue. Let's see. Onetic Zero, are people going to be radicalized and groomed more with AI models? I'm afraid so. I've studied online radicalization. I even co-authored a chapter with my friend John Atack for an Oxford University textbook on lone actor terrorism, and we focused on online radicalization. And what the public needs to understand is when Cambridge Analytica hacked Facebook and got millions of Americans' personal details of what they liked, what they disliked, what they shared, profiles were created on individuals, on millions of Americans. We now know from a Facebook whistleblower, I believe her name is Sarah Wynne Williams, wrote a book, Careless People. And she talked about Trump and Brad Pascal working with Facebook to help him win the election. And this is just the beginning of using AI supercomputers combined with profiling specific Americans. And here's another very important point. Psychological warfare isn't just aimed in one direction, it's aimed everywhere. So they want to make the people on the left more extreme, and they want to make people on the right more extreme, and they want to create chaos so that everyone who's in the middle is overloaded, confused, and numb. And these voices on the extreme left and right, they're both authoritarian. Check it out. Check out the bite model on the extreme left and the extreme right. But who's behind this? Well, it's authoritarians. Whether they want to push fossil fuels, whether they want to push crypto and dismantle public education and human rights and gay rights and women's rights and children's rights, indigenous rights. This is really a major problem for all of humanity. And if you just stop and step back and think, why would Donald Trump appoint uniquely unqualified people to every position in the infrastructure of the US government other than to destroy the US government? Think about it. Why, if you want your people to be healthy, why would you put someone in place who doesn't believe in germ theory, who's anti-vax? Like, think about what the actual behaviors are, not the words spewing out of the mouth that we know he's a pathological liar. Let's see. Anime Fan 1983. Have you heard of Cynthia Miller Idris? She talks about online youth radicalization as well. I've heard the name. I can't say that I've read her book or anything. But I explained when I was on Lev Parnas's Substack Live that I was part of an Aspen Institute invitation-only gathering to counter ISIS recruitment online in the August of 2015. And Madeleine Albright was there. Rich Stengel was State Department counterterrorism. There was Richard Haas, Anne Marie Slaughter. Monica Biggert from Facebook was there. Scott Armstrong from Google was there. Walter Isaacson, the biographer, was there. A lot of big shots were in the room. And we heard a presentation from a man who had an AI computer in 2015 that was capable of tracking memes online in 20 languages in real time. And maybe because there's a question up, maybe I won't share the story now. But what I learned there was memetic warfare is a real thing. You can either amplify a meme or you can create another story that distracts everybody from that meme and divert them to another meme. And this system was, I believe, purchased by the people behind Donald Trump to help him get elected, and has now been ramped up with supercomputing AI, where there's now, what I'm hearing is 5,000 data points on every voting American. And that's why you want to delete your data off of Google. You don't want Siri and Alexa to record every conversation that you're having. We really need to get a hold on the fact that technology needs to be a tool used by humans and not a tool of authoritarians like Big Brother. Remember 1984 and the telescreen? Think about it. Think about what's happening to our world and people in our world now. And let's enjoy life. Let's enjoy being in real life with people. Let's hug people. Let's dance. Let's listen to music. Let's be creative. Let's have awe-inspiring experiences based in reality and not virtual reality. Anyway, I was doing a rant. Smiley Yash, what will be the tipping point for this cult ideology to blow up? I thought it would be the demise of Trump, but Kirk's assassination makes me realize this movement is much larger than just Trump. Yeah, well, if you think about the Epstein Files, if they really are released, then people are not going to follow Donald Trump because they will finally have to admit that he liked to have sex with a lot of girls, even though he said it over and over again. He even said on Howard Stern he would get venereal diseases like crazy because he would never use a condom. And he never thought twice about whether he was infecting women that he was having sex with. If people really understood Donald Trump in reality, they would flee. And so, this is why Trump is telling all of his base, don't bring up Epstein. If you do, it will be viewed as a hostile act against him. But you know what? Methinks he doth protest too much, and he really does think people are stupid. And people don't like to believe their leaders think they're stupid. And people are waking up and they're starting to message on social media. Let's see, Rattle Queen. How do we get folks to recognize propaganda and ideological subversion tactics and restart? What I can say is that the world we're living in is filled with information, and now it's filled with disinformation and misinformation. And the difference between disinformation and misinformation is disinformation is knowing that it's a lie and it's not true. Misinformation is it's wrong, but the person had good intentions. But the world is filled with so much crap that in the end, good people are going to need experts who are trustworthy, who know their expertise, that know that they're truth tellers and that they won't say lies, and that if they're going to make a claim, they're going to back it up, or they're going to say, it's my opinion. I don't have any proof of this yet. And that's why I think freedom of mind has such a unique role to play, because of all of the people who are former cult members, I am uniquely qualified as a former leader of a right-wing fascist cult who's spent 49 years, gotten 2 masters, have been doing therapy, teaching clinicians. I have a course for psychiatrists, psychologists, social workers, and counselors where they can get credit, continuing ed credit. I've written 5 books. We now have Combating in Spanish, which I am proud to share with you. And we've included stories of people who are Hispanic. They need to understand what is a cult, what is mind control, and maybe we're having some glitches now. I'm going to keep talking. The point is we need to look to good people to do the right thing, to stay anchored in their values, the golden rule. Don't do to others what you don't want done to you. Take the log away from the blind person so they don't trip. Help the least in the kingdom is doing to God or to Jesus. Like, we really need to come back to, we're on one planet, people, and we want to live. We want our children to live. We want our grandchildren to live. Let's see, Jane the Message. Does whiteness itself in the United States act as a multiplier of cult conditioning? There is something really off about white males and high control religions and also strange online cultures. There's a lot off. And I was just thinking about my mentor, Dr. Philip Zimbardo, who was a Stanford professor. He's famously known for the Zimbardo prison experiment. There's a biopic, Hollywood pic about it. I highly recommend it. But he did a TED Talk called The Demise of Guys. And I could be misremembering it, but I want to say it was 2011 that he did this. And he was talking about how young men are adrift and how they're not doing well, and they're questioning their roles in society as women are surpassing them in schools, getting into graduate programs and such. And we really need to look at reality, in my professional opinion, as a complex. I am back again. Something happened. Got knocked off of my platform that is helping me live stream. Not sure if it's going everywhere, but hopefully we'll at least finish our time together today. And what I'm seeing is frozen, so I don't know what's going on, but I'm going to keep talking, and hopefully it will be of value. But please check out my Substack, Stephen Hassan. We've rebranded the podcast to call it Cults, Culture, and Coercion on the Midas Touch Audio Network. Let's see, you were putting up Jane the message a minute ago. Does whiteness itself? Yeah, so there are people who are white supremacists, Christian nationalists, who want to try to rewrite history and make a false history claim that white people founded America. In fact, indigenous people have been here forever. And that America's an experiment that's a few hundred years old. I believe it's going to be 250-year anniversary next year. And the problem, I don't think, is that you're white. I think the problem is psychological warfare and beliefs that are very extremist on the left and the right. And thank you, Nancy Wallace. You're a regular. I always appreciate you. You do a super chat for $5. Thank you, dear. So I'm a white male also, and people could say, well, you're privileged. And I was really lucky. I grew up in a small attached house in Flushing, Queens. But my parents, got married when they were young. My father got out of World War II, started a family, went into his father's hardware business, two older sisters. My parents never moved. My parents didn't drink alcohol. They didn't smoke. They didn't gamble. They didn't have affairs. I had a nice neighborhood, a community of neighbors and friends. I had a very stable childhood, unlike a lot of folks who've had all kinds of trauma and problems in their life. But it happened to me. I got deceptively recruited. My mind got hacked. I became a Nazi-esque figure who would have done whatever he was told, no matter what it was, including I would have murdered because in my mind, I wouldn't have been murdering. I would have been doing God's will. So it happened to me. I nearly died in a van crash. I wanted to prove to my family I wasn't brainwashed, so I listened to the ex-members, and the lights turned on in my head. And here I am 49 years later. Let's see, Focus Lady, considering gun cults, what social and psychological de-escalation methods have more effectiveness when guns are widely available through open and concealed carry law in certain jurisdictions? I'm not sure. I can just state categorically that if you look at the media, gun violence is glorified. If you look at video games, there's violence and gun-related figures in video games. It's made to be normalized, which is they're not normal. And when Australia banned assault rifles, they haven't had mass shootings. And America leads the world in mass shootings. My former cult has a gun factory in Pennsylvania that makes a submachine gun, makes AR-15 rifles, makes car arms. And his brother has a cult. He calls himself the King, and he wears a crown of golden AR-15 bullets. And he's been going around the country with Michael Flynn, who has been exposed with Russian connections and deeply involved with QAnon. They've been going around recruiting people into a militia, and they have 2 training compounds, one in Tennessee and one near Waco, Texas. So what can we do? At the moment, I'm really concerned that there's not much we're going to be able to do to deal with the gun problem. And all I can say is I don't think there's any legitimate reason to have an assault rifle or a machine gun if you're an American citizen. And here's the question to ask people who think you need to have one is, how many assault rifles do Russian citizens are they allowed to own? Or China? Answer is 0. You'll be arrested unless you're a police officer or a member of the army. Your citizens are not allowed to have guns. They think Americans are nuts to have guns. But guess who's been pushing it? Russia. Maria Butina infiltrated the NRA, brought a whole bunch of Russian agents to the national prayer breakfast of the cult called The Family that I wrote about in The Cult of Trump. Haven't held the book up yet in this live stream, but if you still haven't read The Cult of Trump, listen to it, download it. It still gives you an explanatory framework for what the heck is going on, who are the bad actors, and what are we, and it really gives a guidance in terms of what we can do strategically to move forward. Let's see, Adona Live, can you expound on what you just said, that what Charlie Kirk represented is the worst of America, specifically what that means? For me, I grew up in believing in America as a place where many people with many different religious backgrounds could coexist, that the government was not going to be church run or theologically done, that there were going to be checks and balances to keep the presidency. The Congress should be in charge of money and should have power. The Supreme Court should not have been hacked by the Federalist Society and Opus Dei, where John Roberts does shadow docket decisions that just blanketly supports Trump. This is not justice. And every single one of the right-wing judges that were interviewed before they were put in the place, who said that Roe v. Wade was established law and they would not overturn it, they lied. because they were ideologically committed to overturning it. Really. They didn't just decide, willy-nilly at the last minute to overturn 50-year law for women's control of their own bodies. So Charlie Kirk, racist, misogynist, doesn't want women to have equal rights. There's so many problems with Charlie Kirk's ideology. And all I can say is that it's sad that he's getting lifted up as some type of savior, some kind of saint, some type of model American, because he doesn't represent American values of freedom and free speech. In your work and knowledge of history, how do you stay hopeful in all this radicalization? How do you protect your own compassion towards others while also calling for accountability? Well, it's a good question. It's not easy, I can assure you. There are definitely days when I just want to close my eyes and disappear and not continue this work that I feel is my life mission. And so I get burned out, I take some time off, and then I come back again. And what propels me is because I feel so deeply that life is precious. I almost died in that van crash. If there weren't emergency professionals prying me out of the wreckage to keep the van from blowing up in flames, I just feel like life's a gift. And so I try to surround myself with people who are uplifting. I love to be with creatives. I love live music. I love to dance. I love nature, animals, children, just people. People are so interesting. So how do we keep ourselves going as a community, lifting each other up? And if you're feeling isolated, make friends, get to know your neighbors, and align with a higher purpose. So those are a few thoughts that I have. Let's see. R.W. Halt, the right has blamed a few recent shooting on the trans community, which is statistically ridiculous. Doesn't the same hold for the LDS community? I believe the numbers are 88% is right-wing violence. And I read something, I'm not sure where, this yesterday or today, about how the Trump administration is trying to purge history of all of the white extremists. But remember Oklahoma City, that was Timothy McVeigh. That was a white veteran who blew up the federal office building and killed all those people and children with his bomb. White extremist, groups, militias, are a real danger. And regarding the Mormon community, they're all about doing good PR, and they're trying to do a rebrand. They made a rebrand and they said, don't call us Mormons anymore. We're the LDS, the Church of Latter-day Saints. And I'm hearing they want to now change the undergarment requirement and also allow members to wear a cross, which they never did, and to make the group seem more Christian. And for people who are devout Mormons who study history, it becomes really clear that this group was started by a pedophile himself, Joseph Smith. And he loved to have sex with his followers' wives. And so this whole doctrine of polygamy was born. So there's a lot to learn about the history of the Mormon organization. And it's a real problem organization. It's the reddest, it's the deep part of MAGA. I do regret that I didn't include them in chapter 7 of The Cult of Trump. That was an omission that I freely make. I should have written more about the Moonies, and I should have written more about Falun Gong, the Chinese cult that does the Epoch Times. And I tried to say to my editor at Simon and Schuster, let me do an update to The Cult of Trump, because I've learned so much more since the book came out in 2019. But for the 2024 re-release, they just allowed a forward by George Conway and an afterward by me. So that's what we did. We put it out as a paperback. Let's see. Glory, glory. The left is much more obviously a cult. I know Trump supporters and conservatives. They're not as obsessed with politics or even close to a politically divisive as leftists tend. Mass in a bubble. So it's very interesting to read your comment. And I want to say the left has cults in it for sure. And if you look at the Byte model, which you can download for free at freedomofmind.com, just go to learn, download the Byte model. The ideology of a mind control cult is very simplistic, black and white, us versus them, good versus evil. So if you're hearing any ideology that's simplistic and us versus them, good versus evil, there's no nuance, there's no room for the middle. You're talking about an authoritarian ideology. So I've written and spoken against cancel culture, for example, on the left and the right. I hear people who are in the Trump orbit say that cancel culture is only a left-wing activity. It's just not true. And I cite Colin Kaepernick being canceled by Donald Trump as one of the clear examples of destroying a talented athlete who is black because he took a knee as an act of free speech, and it destroyed his career. And I'll just say before I answer another question that Robert J. Lifton, who just passed away at 99 years of age, he wrote the initial book on brainwashing in China. One of the 8 criteria is called dispensing of existence. And he said any group that says if you're in, you have a right to exist, and if you leave or criticize the regime, you have no such right to exist. That's cancel culture. And that's why I'm against cancel culture, why I'm against the right saying you can't have books. These books are no good. Take them out of the Naval Academy. Take them out. Please, we want to encourage people to learn, to understand history, not to sanitize things. Okay, so Cami says, Mary on Substack asks, is there one type of person more inclined to brainwashing than another? It's a very good question. I look at upbringing as a major feature, and I can say that it's my belief that corporal punishment as a child will condition a child to follow authority in a way that a child is raised out of love and where the parent is explaining to the child why they're being disciplined and not hit or belted or paddled or with a wooden spoon or a whip or whatever, timeouts or loss of privileges and other ways to have behavioral reinforcement and such. I know that there was a big push after World War II by Adorno to say there are authoritarian personalities and the Germans are authoritarian. I don't buy that. I think that we do have a genetic inheritance that everyone gets when they're born, including intergenerational trauma. We now know gets transmitted from the mother to the child. But more importantly, it's the epigenetic features, your environment that will either help you grow up to be a healthy, socialized member of society or not. So, and people can change. People can grow up in an authoritarian family or in an authoritarian cult. I have helped many people in the Jehovah's Witnesses and the Mormons and Christian fundamentalism in the extreme sense, who've gone on to become very grounded, good parents, healthy parents, and more able to take perspectives of other people, even though they don't agree with it. They can at least understand where other people are coming from. I think it's very important to not close your mind and to be open to being persuaded to change your mind. And when I'm interacting with people involved with authoritarian cults, I approach them with that frame that, hey, convert me, help me understand how you look at reality. And if it makes more sense than how I understand reality, then I'll adapt. I'll change to your point of view. But I'm very clear on my values. I'm very clear on what's true, what's not true, that lying is not okay, that fear indoctrination and phobia indoctrination is not okay. So, and I like to acknowledge that the reason humanity has evolved to such a level as we are today, it's because of science and medicine and dedicated people committed to knowing what's true and utilizing the scientific method to test and not just believe things, but actually to test them out and see if there's a better explanation for the phenomenon. And I can't believe that Robert J. F. Kennedy doesn't believe in germ theory. Do you believe in germ theory? I mean, it got discovered, I believe, by a physician who noticed there was a high mortality rate when children were being born. And when they washed their hands, the mortality rate went down dramatically. And somebody observed it and went, oh, I wonder if there's a relationship with washing hands and sensitive organs of a newborn. And that's where the theory of germs came into place. Invisible things that we can now see under a microscope, the exact bugs. And we've developed antibiotics and other treatments, including vaccines, to help bolster our immune system. And I have gotten 5 COVID injections, and I'm planning to get my new one and my flu shot as well, because I believe in medicine, and I want to be healthy. I want to stay alive. I want to contribute with all my heart. I want the world to be a better place. And I don't want to contribute to making it worse. I want to contribute to making it better. So I'm going to be wrapping up and just ask people, if you are interested in my work, please get my books. Please listen to my interviews, my podcasts. Come join me on Substack. We're asking people to consider $5 a month to get access to my vast archives. We're also generating material just for subscribers. And I plan to do more things for subscribers on Substack because, frankly, I want to amplify my message, and I don't have the financial resources, and I have resisted using advertising and selling soap and underwear for my podcast. So I'm asking people, consider skipping a coffee and donating and keeping this messaging growing. and turn a friend on, turn a family member on. If everybody does it to one person a week, we'll have a vast followership. And we really want to mobilize more former members to speak up and share their stories. And with that, I'm going to thank my team. Thanks again for the live stream. We're going to continue efforts to do this. Check out my Mea Culpa interview with Michael Cohn on Friday. Check out Matthew Skinta's interview as well. And stay in touch. Thank you.